Humanist Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people, living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow.
Hello, and welcome to the Humanist Perspective, brought to you by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association. My name is Beth Deitch, and I'm your host for today. I'm the membership coordinator for NOSHA, and I also serve on the board of directors. You can go to nosha.org at any time to get more information about us and about humanism. My guest today is Sabrina Jacks, who is an animal rescue supporter and does animal rescue work with several organizations in the city. Maybe we'll start off by having you tell us who all you're involved with, because you work with a lot of different groups, don't you?
I do work with several different groups. Mainly, I do fostering for the Louisiana Basset Rescue and the New Orleans Bulldog Rescue, but I also do events with the Jefferson Parish Shelters and Louisiana SPCA, and then I've also done events with different rescues in the city at different times for different things, the Boxer Rescue, Weimaraner Rescue.
Yeah. So I noticed you have all these like breed names, that there's a Weimaraner Rescue and a Boxer Rescue. So if people are loath to go adopt from a shelter because they say, I want a particular breed, is there a rescue for every breed?
Pretty much. Some of your very rare breeds do still have rescues, but they're on a national level. Mm-hmm. So in that case, you could check online and try to find it. And often the rescues will be working with transportation, and there are options. If you're looking for a breed that's a little rarer, there may still be some options in adoption. But for the vast majority of, especially your popular breeds, the rescues are full of them. Mm-hmm. And we've got a rescue for every breed. And then we have numerous all-breed rescues, like Arno, Save an Angel, things like that, who will take in dogs who are either a mix or purebred of any type, especially when you have rescues that are full. Sometimes you'll end up with a boxer, but it's at Arno, or you'll end up with...
And Arno is?
Animal Rescue New Orleans.
Okay. And so why would it be weird that a boxer was at Arno?
Mainly just because you expect it to go straight to the Boxer Rescue. And it just depends with our shelters in the area. We are actually very lucky in the New Orleans area. The Jefferson Parish shelter system is actually filled with amazing people who really work hard to get dogs adopted. So a lot of times purebred dogs will actually stay at the shelter for a little bit if they're healthy, because often they can be adopted pretty quickly from the shelter. So that leaves the rescues in the area open to pull from shelters from neighborhood parishes that aren't in as good of a position to either they don't adopt out dogs or have very...
What, shelters that don't adopt out dogs?
Yes, there are numerous parish shelters that do not do direct public adoptions and instead will only work with rescues. And so to get the dog out of the shelter, they have to be pulled by a rescue that has registered with them. They usually have to have the tax-exempt status, the 501c3, and so that can make those particular areas...
They don't want to do the screening and stuff themselves, and so that then the rescue has the responsibility of like screening people? And
it's definitely in part.
I didn't know that went on.
It's usually just a money issue. Parishes that just do not have the funds to really run animal control in any regard. We have animal control that's run out of a prison. And
what?
That is, I believe, Assumption, but I'm not 100% on that. That's where the animal control is. It's open certain days where rescues can go and pull, but it's very limited when you can go. Dogs have very little chance of getting out otherwise if a rescue doesn't go get them. It's hard for owners, if their dog is picked up, to go and get them because of the restrictions of when the public can go in, what they have to show for ownership. They don't have very many people on staff, if any. There are a lot of really great organizations that work in those parishes to help network the dogs, get them seen. Facebook has been an amazing tool in animal rescue.
You know, because you're my Facebook friend and you post every day. I'm like, oh man, another dog, Sabrina, I want them all. They're so cute. Yeah. Oh, speaking of posting on Facebook, though, you were saying something about people posting videos of like surprise puppy gifts.
I was complaining
holiday time
about a trend of things that we don't like to see in the animal rescue world popping up on Facebook a lot and getting millions of shares because it's so cute when the child gets her surprise puppy, and especially
why
when
is
it's an
this
adult.
not good?
The holidays can be a really good time to add a pet to the family if everyone is on board, everyone has planned for it, they have the time, they have the resources, and a lot of thought has gone into it. Unfortunately, what seems to happen a lot with holidays is the child has asked for a dog, and the family decides that they can get a dog, but they haven't really spent the time to think about it, invest in it, make sure the entire family is on board, put some time into what kind of dog they're looking for, what would be a good addition for their particular family, and they end up with a puppy in particular, but even full adult dogs, where they're not really ready to be dog owners, or they're not really prepared for puppyhood. And so unfortunately, we end up with a lot of dogs coming into the shelter at the beginning of the year, and they're returned gifts, where people have...
So if I was a parent who I had been thinking about doing that, now I hear you say like, oh, that's a bad idea. What should I do to know or get ready or say, I think I want to get a dog for my kid?
Then find someone to talk to. I guarantee every person knows somebody who's a dog person at this point. Someone who has dogs, who has had dogs for years, and even somebody who has a good dog that, okay, I see that they're a really good owner. They're obviously showing a lot of pictures of their dog everywhere, and they talk about their dog all the time. That's a person you can reach out to and say, hi, this is what I'm thinking about. And what you want to do is start thinking about some questions. Who's going to walk the dog? Who's going to feed the dog? Do you have the money for vet care? Right now, the estimates for vet care are about $1,000 a year, but anything can kind of blow that up pretty quickly, as I well know.
As I do too, with my very medically complicated dogs.
Right, and especially as dogs age. But even with young dogs, with puppies, they need all their shots. If you're going to do a spay neuter, all of these things add up. So there's a big financial investment, but also more of a time investment, and deciding how much time you have to train to work with the dogs, who's going to take out the dog. If you have a puppy, it needs to go out multiple times a day. So you need a plan when you're gone from home all day that somebody's coming in. I would suggest at least twice for a puppy, and that's really difficult. With an older dog, you can get away with an 8 or 9 hour.
Paying for
yes,
it.
and definitely expensive if you're paying for it. But you can talk to people and say, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm thinking. I think we're going to maybe be able to do a 30-minute walk with the dog a day. And that's going to be able to go, okay, we need to get you a dog that's on the lower energy side. Or if you're like, I really want someone to jog with, I go out jogging, and I really want a good jogging partner. And, keeping things like that in mind, you want a dog that's good with kids, and you can do some breed research. You can talk to people who own the breeds. Every dog's an individual, so it makes it a little harder to say, oh, no, don't ever get a Chihuahua with a child, because there are amazing Chihuahuas with children. As a whole, small dogs and children aren't the best mix because they're tiny and fragile, and children are not.
Because I think people would think, oh, you would want a smaller dog for a smaller child, but that's not...
No, just because you have to think, kids pull and squeeze, and even if you are just on top of your child and the dog, and you are doing an amazing job keeping them separate or controlling the interaction, it doesn't take very long for a kid to get bit. And that's, a dog may growl, a dog may give some warnings, but kids don't recognize that. They don't recognize that a dog is licking its lips and yawning and the ears are back or the hackles are up. And many adults don't either.
Yeah, well, I guess that would be something that if you were going to get a dog for your child, that you would want to make sure you knew what are the signs of a dog being unhappy with what's being done.
Absolutely.
And make sure you look out for those and communicate those with the kid.
Absolutely. And you can find dogs who are just amazing with children and very tolerant with the behavior. However, even if you have a dog who's amazing and tolerant with the behavior, you don't want your children to engage in that behavior.
Right.
Because it just takes one other dog,
Right.
one situation, and then you've got a really bad injury, or even if it's not a bad injury, that's a mark on that dog. And so it's unfair to the dog and the child to be in that situation. So there's a lot to consider that, unfortunately, I think it is a really big decision.
Right.
And we don't often treat it like a big decision.
Well, it's like sort of having a kid late.
Right. It is.
But
in
you are
many
responsible
ways.
for another life,
Right.
a being.
You are, and they are sentient beings.
A sentient being 24 hours a day, 7
Right.
days a week. Yeah.
Right. And they need attention, they
And
need
dependent.
exercise, and they're very dependent on you. You could get a cat if you needed a little less independent, a little more independent creature. But then, there's still some issues with making sure you have time to socialize with your cat.
Right.
But with the dog, they really are very drawn to their human, and they want that experience with a human.
Right.
And keep in mind, if you do adopt a dog for
Which
your
is what's so
child,
great when
that
you,
is-
when you do it well. You know,
Right.
they really are. You have a relationship with this animal. Yeah.
And you don't always choose who the dog's going to bond with. And so if you have multiple kids, one of the things I've seen gone wrong in adoptions is they got the dog for Tommy, but the dog likes Susie. And they've actually returned the dog because it was a dog for Tommy. And it's very unfair to Susie, the dog, and to the entire
How
family.
would you avoid that?
There is no way to avoid that.
I mean, what if you took can you tell right away? Like if you
It's
take
gonna
them to
be-
visit?
You can definitely do. I much prefer, if you have a family, if you're looking to adopt, if you can adopt from an organization that has dogs in foster care. A dog in foster care has a lot of advantages in that it's been in someone's home. They know about that personality. They know what the dog likes, doesn't like, and they're
Maybe
going
you
to be
could
able.
visit a few times
and you can
and
visit
see
a
if
few
the dog likes
times,
Tommy.
and you can bring it over. You can let Tommy be the one, depending on his age, to feed, to take walks, to train. Dogs
Right.
often bond with those who train them,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. Because they provide the food, but also
dogs
that
like to
interaction,
please.
and they like to please.
They like when they do something and you approve of it. They feel good about themselves.
Right. And I mean, but even when I was a child, we had a kitten, and it was going to be my kitten because we hadn't been with an animal we had my dog, we didn't have a cat for a while, and it loved my dad. My dad, who had no interest in the kitten. My dad, who had no interest of it as a cat.
I swear cats do that. Because, I'm not really a cat person, and the cat will come straight to me. And I'm like, I'm the one person in the room who does not really want to pet you.
Yeah. Cats are very good about that. Dogs just don't notice it as much if you aren't interested, because many dogs are like, everyone will love me because I am awesome.
Yeah.
But cats do tend to go, I don't think you like cats. I'm going to bother you right now.
Right. So you said you foster. I know you foster several dogs. Is that hard? Is it hard to give them up?
It is and it isn't. Sometimes it's heart-wrenchingly awful. You've really bonded with the dog. Maybe
You've
you've
kept a
gone
couple.
through. I've only kept one. I've only foster failed once out of 25 dogs. So I'm 25. My dog, who I have currently as a foster, is number 25. So I'm very proud of my statistic. It's been close a few times. And some of it is I tried to very hard this is what I want with my dogs and the relationship I want with my dogs. And the next dog that I get, I kind of have an idea of what I want. So I try not to foster that.
Right.
So the first dog that I fostered, at the time I only had my one dog. And I wanted a smaller, under 50-pound female. So I fostered an 80-pound male. Because I thought, well, that'll be, and I ended up fostering him for almost a year. So it was actually, his adoption was a hard one, especially for it being my first time to foster. But most of the time, at Christmas time has been great because I am getting Christmas cards, emails, my Facebook feed. One day on my Facebook feed, I had 7 different of my foster dogs in their homes, and their, with their families posting. So it ends up making this sort of big difference where you go, oh, look, there they are. And for the most part, I've only had one foster dog who was returned, and it was a bad situation, but it was okay. The dog came back fine. But I work with organizations on purpose that I think do a really good job matching the owner to the dog and give me some
And which ones
input.
are those?
Louisiana Basset Rescue and the New Orleans Bulldog Rescue, both I feel do a really good job matching owner and dog. There are other rescues that definitely
Right.
do that as well, but those are the two.
Well,
that
and maybe even what rescue what you'd go to, because
Right.
it can be counterintuitive. You know, like I said, that people might think a small dog is good for a small child, when actually the big dogs are so
Yes.
chill. My niece has 2 Great Dane Mastiff mixes, and the kids just climb all over. There's all these pictures of the kids curled up with the dog. Every kid has the first day of school at first grade with their hand on the dog's back. The dog's head is higher than the kid,
course.
you know. And yeah, they're the gentle, mellow ones.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And yeah, so people who don't know, you know, Miller might make some poor choices there.
There are, and it's easy to get a dog, unfortunately, and getting a dog what I would call the right way, either through a rescue, a shelter, or through a responsible breeder, it's going to take some effort. They're going to want to know about you, your home life, your family life. They may ask for a home visit, and all of that's just to make sure they're finding the right fit.
Right. It's like if you adopted a kid, they're not just going to go, here's a kid.
Right, right. And, you know, there are some shelters and things that it's just we need to get them out so that they have a chance to live. And it's not to say that those dogs are in any way not worthy. But even if you're looking at a breeder, if they're not trying to question you as much as possible to find out who you are and what you're looking for in a dog, you may not end up with the right fit for your family.
That's not a good sign from them.
And it's
I
not a
noticed
good
you
sign.
said responsible breeder at one point there. What makes a responsible breeder? Do you recommend people just not go to breeders at all, or?
No, there is a purpose for purebred dogs. Without purebred dogs, we'd have no dogs eventually. And one of the things is you want someone who is breeding for personality.
How is that we'd have no dogs if they were not purebred dogs?
Well, eventually, in that
When they just all be kind of
nobody's
muddy.
breeding, that everybody would be muddy, and then all the dogs would be spayed, neutered, and
Yeah, okay.
theoretically,
oh, okay, because we don't let them breed, right?
Right, we don't let them
Got it.
breed.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
So eventually, it would take some
Right,
time,
got it.
but we would lose certain breeds. And depending on if you're trying to get a dog for a particular task, if you want a farm dog, if you're looking for, you want to do dog sports, you want to do agility, things like that, you may go, okay, I would like to see about this. And if you've got a breeder who is doing they should have health tests, they should know everything about the lineage. So, I mean, they should be able to be like,
So
oh,
how would someone
great-grandpa.
find like a good breeder?
It's hard. There's a lot of really bad breeders out there. And one of the things that you can look for is how much information they want from you. Registration means nothing for the most part. Dogs that have championships in AKC and things like that, those dogs tend to have been a better breed line. They tend to be watching health and things like that for the most part. But there are still some issues even with that you could have a dog, especially because they'll say, oh, it's championship bloodline and it's great-great-grandpa. As opposed to the parents of the dog are show dogs.
Right.
I work mostly with performance dogs that I see on a personal basis. And
What does that mean, performance dogs?
so those are going to be dogs that do agility, dock diving,
What's dock
field
diving?
trials. Dock diving is amazing. They literally throw a toy off a dock, and the dog dives, and they measure how far it dives. So the goal is to jump as far as you can. And even with things like that, most of them you don't have to be a purebred dog, and there are tons of rescue dogs in these sports. But there are dogs who have been bred for these lines. I have a friend who just recently got a Brittany Spaniel puppy, and it is meant to be an agility dog. And the parents are both agility dogs who have won several titles. And that was the idea. She had she is involved in rescue and has had many rescue dogs, but her rescue dogs have had some health issues.
Right.
And this way she was able to have a line of dogs that they've done the health testing,
Right.
they've checked, which is a little bit of added security. Anything can happen.
Right, it's never 100% guaranteed.
You know, lots and lots of purebred dogs will still end up with things that you just can't test for.
Right, right. Well, this idea of, is it not better, though, to be breeding them for what they can do, at least, rather than what
Yes.
they look like? Because
And-
as I understand it, this trend toward dogs, show dogs having to look one very specific way is historically rather recent and making many breeds almost clones. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. There are several purebred breeds that are incredibly unhealthy. You've got some very good lines of German Shepherd out there, but they're not the show line.
Yeah.
I think personally the show line is incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah.
They have really bad hip, leg, back issues,
Yeah.
and bulldogs.
I've heard some of them,
Unfortunately,
some breeds can trace back to, you said almost all of them probably have one sire a few generations back, because they're all supposed to look identical instead of, it used to be what they could do.
exactly. And we have
Are we getting more back to what we can do? Is there a recognition that the what they
There-
look like thing is not a good thing?
There is and there isn't. It depends on the breed. You have some breeds. I do barn hunt with my dog, and we have a lot of schnauzers because they're hunting dogs. And
Explain barn hunt.
so Barn Hunt is an organization that does trials, and they set up a ring of hay, and they put rats into tubes where the rats are safe. So the rats are not in danger. Most of the rats really don't care at all. And the dogs get to go out and hunt them. So it's a chance for them to use their nose, to run around. Dogs of every breed really seem to enjoy it and really get into it.
So if they don't get the rat, what do they get?
Just praise and love. And so it's kind
Do
of...
they get ticked off? They don't get the
They
rat?
do. They do.
My rat. I found the rat.
My dog is one of the ones who gets really mad about it. And it's a very interesting division. You have dogs that are working dogs that do this sport. So you have Border Collies, you have Australian Shepherds, and for the most part, they call off immediately. They find the
What do
rat.
you call off?
So the second they find the rat, you can say, "Great job, go," and they just walk away and leave the rat. And you have the terriers, and they are not going to leave the rat.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to work very hard to train them to leave it so that the rat can go out of the ring and they can continue hunting. And schnauzers are definitely part of this hunting. And it's become a big thing for schnauzer breeders and for people in that community, at least the ones I've met. They want to have these dogs involved in other things. So their dogs may do conformation.
They do what?
Conformation, which is where they're basically breed standard.
Okay.
So that's when you think of a traditional dog
That's
show
what they look
with
like.
dogs walking in a
That
circle
is supposed
that's
to look
just
this way and have the spot
exactly.
there and this kind of ears and that sort of thing.
Exactly, right. But they're also trying to get them into other dog sports and other things, and so it's making sure that you have a dog who is meeting its breed requirement. Like it should be a terrier.
Yeah.
A lot of people will get dogs and then say, "Oh, it chases squirrels and cats, and it shouldn't do that." It's a dog,
Right.
and especially depending on the breed of dog.
And if you didn't want a dog that did that, then you shouldn't have gotten a terrier.
Right,
You
exactly.
Came back to the choosing the right dog for your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and some dogs definitely do have that prey drive.
Absolutely. And every dog's an individual, and you can end up with, I have one pit bull terrier German Shepherd mix who really would just snuggle with the rat and cuddle, and he's cuddled kittens and bunnies because he's a sad, pathetic little creature. And then, of course, I have my other terrier who would kill anything small and fluffy if given any chance, because for prey drive. So even within the same breed, you can have dogs
Right.
that react very, very differently. And that's
Right.
one of the benefits of getting a dog as an adult. Or if you do get a dog through a responsible breeder, they know the parents.
Right.
And it's not perfect because, of course, if you think about kids, they're only so much like their
Right.
parent
Right.
in appearance and in behavior.
Right.
And the same thing happens with dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said about getting an adult. I've always gotten adult dogs, and I think people think, because the puppies are so cute, and so they're like, oh, get a dog that you get a puppy, and don't necessarily realize how much work a puppy is. And that an older dog, I've never had a dog that wasn't housebroken within a couple weeks, because they're already a year or so old,
Right.
even if they've never lived inside, because they're, at an age where they can learn
Right.
it. And it does seem to me like the shelters seem to be really full of a lot of dogs around a year and a half
That's
old.
exactly right.
Where they've just gotten to be dog-sized.
Exactly.
And they don't seem, I've gotten dogs that were dumped by their families and that had clearly not done anything with them.
Yes.
They had not trained them, they had not exercised them, they had not done anything, and then it got to be dog-sized and didn't know how to behave and is eating the house and growling at the kid and all. And and I think that older dogs, people, especially, really old dogs,
Yes.
I know, have a hard time getting adopted. And I have to say, I
We-
can't do that. I know we have
I
some
know.
friends who do it. I love them. But the senior dogs.
It is sad. We get older dogs in rescue constantly. At one time with the Basset Rescue, we had over 10 dogs that were over 10 years of age. And getting them into a good home is hard because you're basically committing for a few years maybe.
No, it's
You
so
know, depending on the
hard
size
when
of the
you
dog,
lose
depending
them.
on the health of dog. But you're going to be attached in a year. It's not, you know, you're still going through that pain of loss. So the people who adopt seniors are amazing. And it's actually not a bad idea if you do have, especially if you have older kids, because the dog's going to be pretty mellow. It's
Yeah.
not going to need much.
That's true.
From you. It doesn't need much exercise. It just needs a warm place to lay down. They tend to be very appreciative of having that. They tend to bond very quickly with their new owner, which a lot of people expect not to have that happen. But I've found that dogs who are kind of in the middle age range sometimes will take a little bit longer to adjust. A senior is just like, oh, thank God there's a bed. Great. Are you going to feed me? Because
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And they tend to bond very well. And we've had some situations. We've got a family with the Bulldog Rescue who had fostered a dog that unfortunately had cancer, and they ended up keeping the dog through the dog's life. And the little girl, I mean, I think it just made such an impact on her, and I think it makes a big difference with them. It's definitely a way of compassion and understanding and caring that otherwise, you know, maybe we don't get to teach all the time.
Right.
And loss and grief is part of life.
Yeah, true.
It's a very hard part of life. And like I said, I think the people who adopt the senior dogs and take them in are amazing and wonderful. But it's definitely something to even consider
Right.
if you're looking for a dog for a family.
Right. Well, and there is that calmness. You know, my neighbor had a friend who was visiting with her dog, and she's like, oh, and it was some kind of terrier, and pretty like a 2-year-old terrier, and saying like, oh, your dogs are so calm and well behaved, and why is that? What kind of dogs are they? And I'm like, they're senior citizen dogs.
Right.
So they pretty much, you know, one of them's like what 10, 11, the other one's 15, and yeah, they are. If you're not home a lot and you don't want to give a lot of exercise,
Right.
that could be they sleep most of the day.
Right.
That's what they want to do.
And then they just want to be near you
Yeah.
when you're home.
Yeah, I think most dogs like that. They just want to be
Yes.
with us.
They do.
You know, they're very
They really do.
social. They just want to be with their people.
However dogs evolved, they evolved with humans.
Yeah.
There's some interesting research that's going on of did humans domesticate dogs, did dogs domesticate humans?
Probably a bit of
And
both.
yeah, exactly. It's definitely a little bit of both. And that was part of it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
meant to work with us.
Right.
So-
Well, and we kept the ones that did.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That was how we bred. We bred dogs who were responsive to commands, who would learn so that we could have a good farm dog who could go out and do all of these different jobs, and we could send them to go herd the sheep
Right,
and not be anywhere
right,
near them
right.
and trust them to do their job.
Well, this has been fun. We're actually running out of time here. So that was a quick half hour. So thanks so much for talking with us, Sabrina. And I hope that anyone who's thinking about getting a dog here for the holidays will spend some time to really think about getting the right dog for you and hopefully rescue a dog that really needs a home. Thanks for watching.